welcome to an Evil Clown Slayer review. This is a exciting video for me today. We are going to be looking at the Guilliman JoyToy 1/8 scale figure here out of the Warhammer 40,000 franchise. I've been itching to get this guy open for a little while now. I got him from Amazon about a week ago, maybe a little over a week ago, but I have yet to open him. I was just busy, had stuff going on. So I am really excited to take a look at this guy. Just give you a quick look at this box. Just a couple things that stand out to me is very, very similar to a lot of the other JoyToy boxes. The noticeable difference, though, considering he's just a figure, a character, is that the box is pretty big. Just comparing it to the last one I got, this is a third edition, or third version, or V3, whatever, 0.3, I don't know, 3.0 JoyToy. That box seems very small compared to this guy. This one is huge. It's also quite a bit, feels a lot heavier than some of the other ones. Just so you're aware, this thing does show you can pre-order him currently at Big Bad Toys, Entertainment Earth, and I noticed a bunch of pre-orders available on Amazon. I'm not sure how I got so lucky with getting this guy. I know he's out there because I've seen a few other people doing reviews on him and such. But apparently he's kind of a challenge to get right now because I can't find anywhere to buy him right at this moment. I'll put a couple links in the descriptions as far as where I saw him. But again, right now, all I'm seeing is pre-orders. Which, I mean, to me, that's cool because that's competition for doing these unboxings. Alright, so let's take a better look at this guy as we're pulling him out. Sorry, bear with me here. There we go. This thing's so big that try that again. Fancy scissors here. Thought I got it the first time, but apparently not. But while we have this flipped over, that is kind of cool. That's pretty much what you see on the most of the websites when you go to order this guy. It shows you the accessories that are in there. Some of the details you can expect out of him. This guy was very expensive. I would be willing to say he's probably the most expensive action figure I've ever bought. I don't usually buy expensive action figures. Usually I'm around 25 to $30 are expensive for me. I have bought several expensive statues, but no action figures. Alright, so I do have him opened up, but you know what? I have to put a quick pause. Many Evil Clown Slayers are walking in upstairs from school, so I have to go take care of that. I'll be with you shortly. Okay, and we're back. Many Evil Clown Slayers are settled. Hopefully they don't come barging down the stairs. They were threatened with bodily harm if they did. For your guys' sake. So it looks like we got a base here. It's the first JoyToy figure I've come across with a base. Again, this is my fourth JoyToy. I'll screw that later. Let's pull this off. Let's wait for that. Okay, I got a nice fancy protective bubble thing. This is really fancy, like this foam insert that holds them in place. All the other guys I've gotten from this line were basically plastic inserts that they kind of snap into. But this is feels really fancy, high end. Ooh, smells like fanciness. Alright, the first thing I have to grab is this big old sword. This thing is humongous. This is like the length of, this is taller than some of the other JoyToy figures I've gotten. It's a little wonky, but not too bad. This is the Emperor's Sword. So when Guilliman, so if you guys have been, if you know the lore at all, Guilliman was around back when the Emperor walked around, was not just a corpse. This is like 10,000 years ago, and the Emperor used the sword. Then Guilliman went into a coma, basically, for about 10,000 years, and he was recently woken up. Oof. Very cool. So just to... I'm going to hold the lore for a few minutes here. Let's just take a look at this guy. Uh-oh. Mrs. Evil Clown is home, so she might be interrupting in a minute here. We'll see. But I wanted to take a look at this guy. Wife be damned. This thing is freaking pretty cool. Alright. So just very detailed compared to a lot of the other figures I've received from him, or from this line already. I mean, JoyToy is really pretty good about making some detailed figures, but this is really cool. Ton of detail, and I'm assuming this has got to be mostly hand painted, or all hand painted. So looks pretty awesome here. Like I said, I like this. I don't know what you call that, but very decorative backpack. Got a lot of tubes and piping and everything here, connecting backpack to him, which makes sense. I'm sure he gets something just from it being attached to him. It's kind of, actually, it's kind of, now that I think about it, it makes less sense. Why would you have all these tubes? You got a big connection right here. Run it under the under the armor so it's not getting cut. Alright, so let's just take a quick peek here. So I do like this, that helmet is pretty badass. Got these goofy little leaf things on here. And if I recall, this is the Armor of Fate. So like we mentioned, he was around 10,000 years ago, but was he was put in a coma fighting one of his brothers. Fulgrim, I believe, put him into a coma, and he was literally in a coma for basically 10,000 years. And they put him in stasis so he couldn't really die, or he was in comas. He was stabbed and poisoned. And he was on the brink of death. And then there was some long storyline where a bunch of Eldar and some other Imperials got together to try to bring him back to life, and they did. So he was the first Primarch to come back. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm sorry, back to the lore where I left off. So he was the first of, as of now, 2 Primarchs that have returned into the current lore. One of his brothers has recently come back as well. So that made him pretty special. So I would basically say this is supposed to be current settings, armor, and look, the way he's supposed to look. But let's just take a look at all the detail on here. Man, just so much to look at. We'll take a look at articulation in a minute here. Ultra, I'm assuming this must be like ultramarine. Probably should say like ultramar or something like that. I feel like it's kind of goofy to have ultra. I'm not sure if that means anything. I'm not a deep lore fan, just a half-assed, occasionally watch a video or two fan. So this is really flexible. This is different. I've never had a figure that had this, well, a recent figure anyway, that's had this kind of rubberness to it. It's very similar to all these other tubes that are all over him, but that's really cool. I mean, you can see all the little details on there, little skulls on each of these, meant to be ammo for this gun that's on the bottom of his big power fist. Remind myself what this thing's called. The Hand of Dominion. That's for, you would ball that hand up and just shove it up the backside of most of his bad guy brothers' butts. Guilliman, again, his name, Reboot Guilliman. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. So yeah, again, detail is incredible on this thing. So for the price, I mean, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I spent, I think retail is about $150, which I was gagging. It was like, oh, I can't spend that kind of money on a stupid action figure, but couldn't help myself. Who can't? Who could resist the Primarch of the Ultramarines? So there he is. I haven't even messed with his articulation at all yet. Just to kind of give a quick peek at some of the other things that come with this guy. We did see the sword. That sword is very detailed as well, as, I mean, that's very pretty looking. Not sure what these little lines are. I gotta decide if I like that or not. It seems kind of like almost like a factory defect or something like that, but it's probably intentional. I'm hoping it's intentional. For again, the amount of money that this thing is supposed to cost. We got a replacement hand here. I'm assuming for expression. Because I don't, other than, I mean, he's supposed to be holding that sword. You don't let that sword go. I guess you could like have this hand of sadness looking. It's kind of like a sad looking hand, like, oh no, what did I do? I dropped my sword. But, okay, so that's a hand. I don't know when you would ever use that, but kind of cool. We also have a big old power fist here for replacing this. So instead of, like, hey, I'm going to grab a hold of you, I'm going to bend over and I'll show you where this thing can go, kind of deal. We'll see by the end of this if I swap some of these out. We'll take a look. And then we got another hand, a third. So this guy comes with 3 hands for this side. We got the fist, just a good old regular fist. Got the sword gripping hand here. That's came with it on there. And then we get this loose, like I dropped my sword hand. Last but not least, we have the alternative head, which I've never been a huge fan of unhelmeted heads. Like, I know it's the Primarchs are pretty durable. They're meant to be like, you shoot them in the face, they're gonna survive. Their brains will grow back and stuff. But it's like, you have invested so much time, effort, and money and whatever into some of these even just the Space Marine heads. Let's see if I can get that to zoom in or focus properly. Ooh, there we go. But that is very nicely detailed. Got the same little leaves on the side here. Similar to the helmet. Sorry, it keeps going out of focus. I apologize, guys. I run this entire channel on my phone, so I'm kind of at the mercy of my phone. And the phone's not even that new. So that's different. I've never seen just a big old bottomless pit for a head. We'll take that helmet off later and see what that looks like. But yeah, head-wise, that is pretty nice, pretty sharp looking. I mean, $150 worth, maybe. Better than I could paint if it was my own figure, yeah. Probably better than most of any other action figures I've had that are just faces. So those are some of the accessories that come with this guy, and then again, with a base. But you have a base that comes with it. But as you've seen, he stands pretty well without the base. It's kind of unnecessary. So let's take a look at some of the articulation here. So I did notice, just fiddling with him for a moment here, he's got the same kind of shoulder pads that the Chaos Terminator has, which I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, I see it does give him a ton more articulation. Like without that, he would not be able to move his arm very well at all, and even him is pretty limited. I mean, he could tap on his chest if he wanted to. But for my Terminators anyway, the Terminator I have, it got loose really, really fast, and it made it a real pain in the ass every time I was trying to do any kind of stop motion. That thing would be flopping around, and it would drive me nuts. So I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. My other figures that are just regular Marines don't have this. I don't believe they have this goofiness, at least not the version 1. I'm not sure if the version 3 does. I haven't fiddled with them too much. The shoulder pads are attached by, there is a little ball peg, it looks like, up in there. So you do have a ton of articulation options with just the shoulder pads, which seems ridiculous. Like, why do you need so much articulation with just the shoulder? But you can really... Oh, I got it all goofy and have all the joints hanging out, or you can hide all that. Make it look all sharp. Oop. Yep, that was... His arm fell off pretty quick there. It's barely... Hopefully, that's not a reoccurring issue. One of my first JoyToy... Actually, the first JoyToy I bought, I ended up returning because he had a leg that would fall off every time I did anything with it. And that is dangerously close to that JoyToy. That's annoying. For $150. But I always bitch about these JoyToys, and then in the video afterwards I'm saying how much I love them, because just I've had time to fiddle with them and play with them. Hoping that doesn't fall off all the time, because that will be a pain, especially if I'm sitting there meticulously trying to do some stop motions here. But, oops. His head does move pretty well here. He could look behind himself if he needed to. No sneaking up on this guy. Not a huge fan of the color of that. I'm not sure. I mean, it looks kind of like shit brown, or like a bloody shit brown. I wish it was kind of brighter. Seems like, I mean, it might have just been because it's been sitting there forever. It would have been really cool if they put some kind of something you could actually read on there, but other than the U, but like this, the oath the moment, whatever this is supposed to be. So for me, I think I got this guy. I got him on Amazon Prime Day. So I ended up getting like $40 off, I believe. So I still spent a ridiculous amount of money, in my opinion, for a cheesy action figure. Sorry, apologies. An awesome action figure. He is really cool so far. I'm just like, but I haven't bought a lot of figures lately, so it's like, yeah, I can splurge a little bit, get some good deals. Yeah, so again, that shoulder thing is cool because it gives him a ton of motion. I just don't realistically see that happening even in the, like, you see art or him moving in real, like if you did an animation of him, you're not going to see his shoulder that far up. It just seems kind of like, looks kind of stupid. It's like, I get wanting to have articulation, but he's ruined from the back when you start articulating that strong. And then from the front, it's like he would never really do that in real world, so it's like, why give him that kind of articulation? Like, he's gonna be stiff, kind of Frankenstein-ish type character with this kind of armor on. Let's see here. So it's just kind of goofy to have those big swiveling things in the back. I'm not a fan of those. It does have some good hip articulation. My apologies, I will be pretty gentle with this gentleman because I hopefully will not be returning him. I don't want to break what I have. Oh, and there's two. So you can swivel at the waist, and then he does have some kind of ab crunch, but it's pretty tight. I was looking at the backpack. I was hoping that would come off, but it doesn't look like that does. And it makes sense, I guess, all these tubes and pipes that come from his arms and stuff. Which, you know. But it's like all the other ones, our backpack comes off. That would have been cool. Maybe make these disconnect. Just looking at the backpack, though, the backpack is detailed. Super detailed. Glory and Might written on the back there. You got your Mechanicum stamp of approval, or stamp of we built this. There's another oath moment on the back here. double-headed Aquila, which is the Imperium symbol. And it's kind of represented here. So the double-headed eagle is, I believe that's a sign that the Emperor, I can't remember. We got some more oaths of moment here. Sorry, I'm all over the place I'm just kind of overwhelmed by this guy. I keep going from articulation to detail. So his arm does not bend a ton, like he can either arm. That's about as high up as that they're going to go. Looking at this, he does have this. Is this a? Oh yeah, that's another piece here. So that's actually not connected. That's its own piece, separate from the rest of his arm. It's kind of cool. Assuming we have a matching one. Yeah, definitely different. It's not the same piece. Pretty, so again, just pretty detailed. Looking at his legs here, we do have the toes, and you know I like my toesies to be able to move. Those little toesies. He's got a little highlight in here. To be fair, though, he's kind of pretty. Just there's no shading. That's something I was just realizing. You got no shading, no highlights. My first one, well, there's a little bit here. Okay, I take it back. There's a little highlighting here. But my original, and there's a little on the abs here. But like looking at the legs, and I guess there's not a lot you could really highlight, I guess, but it's like it's just kind of like gold and blue, nothing in between. And there's a little bit of oopsies. Come on, JoyToy. That looks like oopsies too. What is this? You guys scrape my blue paint off this thing, or is that supposed to be highlight? Can't tell. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Not gonna complain. But that gold paint definitely should not be there. I want a refund. Get a new one. Just joking. I don't really care that much. And looking at these, this chain-fed ammunition hopper, it looks like, meant to be feeding his bolter. I would imagine that's some kind of a bolter. That's pretty sweet. Well, again, I like all these little rubber hoses and tubes that dangle off here. It's cool looking, but I feel like in battle, that's the first thing I'm going to be doing. So this guy's going to trample most people he fights in the battlefield. So like, I'm going to die, but I'm going to chop one of your tubes before I go, slow you down, or make it so you can shoot slower or whatever. For all my other friends that are going to get killed by it too, make it a little bit easier. So just give me an idea. He could, ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. He could probably keep up with some of the Mortal Kombat characters. Kick someone in the face if he really needed to. Get a little peg in there for your stand. He stands up great. I mean, I don't even have his like feet level or anything like that. Let's try this again. Slightly different angle here. So again, that's, as far as the articulation goes, it's good. I'm pretty content with it, especially how detailed and busy he is. You'd assume, kind of like McFarlane's, the busier, the more detail they have, usually the worse the articulation is, the harder it is to crank them around. But JoyToy's always been pretty good about their articulation and movement. Very focused on the ability to pose something and hold that pose, which is really nice for my hobby. Again, I do a lot of the stupid stop motions. And hopefully, I'm sure I'll sneak some of that in here at some point, maybe one or two. So yeah, pretty good. So far, so good. For me to say it's worth the cost. it's a little on the steep side for me, but pretty awesome so far. I'm gonna throw him up on a rotating base because we haven't seen that in a little bit. I figured I can talk a little lore about this guy. Maybe let's see what else we have to talk about. So I'm gonna pause it for a second. I'll be right with you. And before I throw him on that spinning base, I figured we would want to see him compared to some of his friends. Forgot about that. So this is supposed to be lore accurate as far as how big he is. It still seems a little bit bigger for me. He seems quite... I mean, he's basically double the height of a regular... This is supposed to be a regular Space Marine proper height. Keep in mind, this is a version 1, so he's a smidgen taller than he could be, I guess. Compared to him, he's probably supposed to be like the version 3. But he is close to double... I mean, I could double, but he's a lot taller. I want to say like a Space Marine would be around 7 or 8 feet tall, fully armored. That's what he's supposed to be. And the Primarchs supposed to be like around a head taller than them. 10, maybe 10 feet tall for some of them. So that is significantly bigger in my opinion. I mean, to be fair, the amount of money I spent on this thing, I would expect it, I mean, it's kind of nice having him giant like that, but I want to say he's too big compared to regular JoyToy. Let's pulling him out of there. Now this is a McFarlane who's supposed to be, I think 12th scale or 6th scale. I don't remember. I think it's 12th scale. He is about the same size, to be honest. They're pretty close. I mean, head to head, they are almost exactly, I think, around 7 inches, 6.5 inches, something like that. We can pull out a quick tape to take a look at this guy. So he stands, actually, he's quite a bit taller than I thought. He is over 7 inches tall, to his head. Looks like maybe about 7.5 inches. The top of his little pokey thing back there, closer to 9 inches. McFarlane is, it's hard to see from my angle, but yeah, around 7.5 inches tall. So they're close. They're very close in height, which is kind of cool. Just to give you an idea. I don't know. Depends, I guess. But just giving you guys a comparison before I throw him on the spinning table of funness. So there we are on the fancy spinning table thing here. So from a little bit of research I did, which most of it I knew, just forgot. Again, he was around back during the Horus Heresy, where he was one of 20 Primarchs, and he's a Primarch. And he led an army of these little guys. When I say little, to me and you, they're a head and a half taller than us. These guys are 1,000 pounds of muscle and beef by themselves. The Primarchs were even bigger. They were literally considered demigods, or they were sons of the Emperor, who is, in current lore, a lot of people see him as a god. And again, there was 20 of these guys, and they eventually had a civil war, leading the armies of these Space Marines. They all went to battle trying to take over the universe, basically. He ended up being one of the loyalists. Loyalist meaning he was loyal to the Emperor, and the Emperors who gave him the big shiny death sword there. And during the Horus Heresy, he was kind of considered like a bookworm kind of guy. He was always known for his brilliance as far as like diplomacy, politics, economy, like just running a solid empire. Before he was even found, so he was scattered at one point. All the Primarchs were. Most of them were. There's a whole bunch of story behind that. But by the time the Emperor went off with a bunch of his own armies trying to find each of his sons, by the time they found him, he's already developed like a whole empire to himself. He had several worlds all conquered and running efficiently, and he was kind of in charge of all of them. And he was, again, just smart. Everything ran really well. To be fair, in a lot of ways, I'd imagine his Ultramar, I believe, was what it was called. Was probably better for the people that live there than the regular Imperium. The quality of life. See if I can get him to do something slightly different here. Why not? Do it live. So during the Horus Heresy, again, there was like a civil war with, again, half the brothers, half the Primarchs went to fight for the Emperor, and the other half went to go fight against him to try to topple him. He had to fight several of his brothers during this. I was just impressed actually with how many he actually fought. He fought Lorgar, who is kind of credited for starting the whole Civil War. He also fought Angron, who is considered one of the biggest, baddest of them all. And then he also fought Conrad Kurz, if I recall, or the Night Haunter, who in my opinion is probably the most hardcore, hardest to fight Primarch out of all of them, in my opinion. I mean, maybe against Sanguinius, not so much. But as far as the villains go that aren't super jacked up on the warp and the evilness, the demonhood. So before turning into a demon, he was probably the most badass one. And then also Fulgrim, which we mentioned. He fought Fulgrim after the heresy, I believe, after the main battle, which was all the armies of Horus and the traitors all went to fight the Emperor and his big I'm brain farting. His big castle. And then afterwards, Guilliman and a bunch of his other brothers went off trying to hunt these guys down. And he came across Fulgrim, who is the Emperor's children Primarch, but he was ascended into demonhood at that point. And he lost that fight, and he got stabbed by a poisonous blade, and he basically went into a coma, and he was in stasis, meaning he just doesn't age. Everything in that stasis bubble stays exactly the same until they turn off the stasis bubble, basically. And again, there was some storyline where some Eldar, who are Xenos, Ew, and a few other Space Marines and other people involved were they went on a quest to try to bring him back to life, and they did. And it was about, again, this is 10,000 years later, which that's current lore. The 40k is current. Warhammer is the Civil War happened in 30k for the timeline. So again, 10,000 years later, he wakes up, and all the other Primarchs are gone, dead, buried, whatever. They're just disappeared, and all of a sudden, this is literally like he's just like a storybook character at that point. But he comes to life and just starts whooping ass. He takes over not takes over in an aggressive way, but he does his politics thing, and he takes over the Imperium and starts running things. Builds up the armies of the Imperium, who were literally, the Imperium was dying. I mean, it was always in the lore described as a corpse that all these Xenos and other villains are just kind of picking at, just slowly eating it away. And he turned it into something big and imposing again. So in the more current lore, more 40k, he has also fought Magnus, who's another one of his brothers, and then also Mortarion, I don't know. But regardless, the point is he's fought like 5 or 6 of his brothers and survived each of those. He hasn't managed to kill any of them, but he's held his own and survived for the most part, minus Fulgrim, I guess. And none of these guys are pushover slouches. So I just thought it was kind of cool. Again, he's always kind of made fun of as like just a bookworm kind of guy, but that's my argument. It's like he's fought pretty much all the traitor Primarchs ex-Horus, and also Alfarius, whatever, but who's considered a small, weakest of the Primarchs, so who cares? So he's fought all the major villains, and held his own. So I'd say he's not my favorite Primarch by any means, but he's definitely not a chump. Come on, stupid thing. Sorry, dancing table. Well, we might be turning this off. We'll see. Oh, there it goes. Oh, a little faster. It's okay. Dance. Guilliman, dance. I don't know why. Okay, whatever. I give up. So we talked about the Emperor's Sword. When they brought him back to life, because he had that poison in him, they had to give him some special armor. I forget what the hell is that called? The Armor of Fate, I believe. And that helped keep him alive. I believe he can stay outside of his armor now and survive without it. But it's still... I'm still not 100% sure on that. And then he's also got the Emperor's Sword, of course. And then a Hand of Dominion. Again, pretty awesome. Overall, very cool. I mean, I have a hard time really justifying the cost because again, I don't spend a lot of money on single action figures. Let's just say I'll spend $20 a week here. I'll spend $30 a week here or there on stupid figures I don't really need or want. But to spend it all at once seems crazy. But I did go like 3 or 4 weeks without buying anything, so I was like, I'll splurge a little bit on this guy. It is pretty cool. Would I say it's worth the $150? It's hard to say. It depends on what that's worth to you. For him, he's gonna end up sitting somewhere, probably in a dark, not even on display. He just doesn't go with my stuff. I will pull him out and definitely do some stop motion stuff. I'm sure he'll make some appearances. He may end up back up on eBay one of these days. We'll see. I do like him though. I mean, I am pretty impressed, and just because I grew up playing this game, and the Primarchs were always legends. They were toys. They were legends. They were fairy tales. They were something that you would never expect to run into. You only got little clips of lore in some of the codexes. But this gentleman has come back to life, and there's tons of lore on him. You get to hear about him, know his thought process. It just made it seem really, really cool. So I just kind of like had to get him. Now we mentioned there is another one of his brothers that just recently came awake that's loyal. There are several of the evil ones that rebelled that are running around or popping in and out of the warp. Camel. Ugh. So they're cool to me, but not as cool as the loyal ones. I don't know why. Just big demons seem to kind of be like, it's kind of like cheating. It's like, these guys they're literally 10,000 years old. So that fist, kind of cool looking at. I like that probably more than, well, we'll see. I don't know. Decide yet. Pretty nifty. And those always scares me. We yank the head off this guy, see what happens. Oh, actually not too bad. So he's just got a giant hole for a head. I don't know if that's supposed to pop on or not. Seems like it's on there pretty good. Just to give you an idea. Man, thing does have a strong smell. I would say it's probably smelling like China. But he does, he checks off all the boxes I would hope for, what I was expecting. He is pretty badass. I'm going to try to do some kind of stop motion with him. We'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him yet. I haven't had a chance to really think about it. But remember to please like, subscribe, watch some of my other videos if you haven't already. If this is my first video of mine that you've watched, check out some of the other ones, especially if you like the cheesy stop motion. You can skip all the figure reviews if you wanted, and most of my figure reviews have stop motions with them. But then they also have their own standalone videos, so feel free to check those out. Again, it's just a silly hobby of mine. I'm not very good at any of this yet, whether it's the reviews or the stop motion, but all the time you guys, all the video views I get, likes, subscribes, comments, whatever, it encourages me to make more. If there's a chance you'll come back and watch more of my stuff, I appreciate it if you subscribe. And I guess that's all I got for now. I want to say Evil Clown Slayer out.